If you like these videos, please check out my full course at www.lsat.totaltestprep.net with tons of clearly explained actual LSAT questions written by someone who's mastered test and helped others master it, and an evaluation period where you only pay if you want to continue.
Alright, so in this video we're just going to introduce logical reasoning. So what is logical reasoning? Okay, so basically what's the nature of the argument section? What does it consist of? What does it test? And how do we approach it? Okay, so in terms of the basic information, the logical reasoning section is most or more commonly known as the argument section. So this is the section that tests your ability to think critically and test your analysis and evaluation of the reasoning and arguments of others. Okay, so it's always 2 out of the 4 scored sections, and it therefore constitutes 50% of the test. So you're going to have between 24 and 26 short arguments, and they're going to be followed by a question, and sometimes you'll get 2 questions following the argument about and it's going to deal with the various aspects of logical reasoning. And so that means there's a total of 50 to 52 questions, and these arguments can be on any topic, although you want to look for the fundamental logical relationships, so constitutive causal reasoning, correlations, proposals, explanations, etc., predictions, stuff like that. So we'll go in a lot of detail and all that stuff in the actual lessons covering all that. Okay, so now in terms of what does it test, so what can you expect to find in the argument section? Okay, well, let's take a look at the actual instructions they give you. So they say that the questions in this section are based on the reasoning contained in brief statements or passages. So for some questions, more than one of the choices could conceivably answer the question. However, you are to choose the best answer. That is, the response that most accurately and completely answers the question. You should not make assumptions that are by common sense standards implausible, superfluous, or incompatible with the passage. And after you have chosen the best answer, blacken the corresponding space on your answer sheet. So here the section is designed to test your ability to reason logically, to see whether or not you can evaluate arguments. So can you understand and evaluate information quickly? Now, the arguments are going to present a scenario, and the questions are going to relate the reasoning structure in the scenario with 3 key categories of questions. So first you'll have relevance. So these question types ask you for the answer choice which is relevant. Now what that means is relevance means that it either strengthens or weakens the argument. So that's the first basic category of questions, relevance. Questions dealing with some aspect of strengthening or weakening the argument. Then there's consequence. These question types ask you for the choice which has to or cannot follow. So this deals with truth. It either has to be true or false. Arguments dealing with consequence test your ability to understand the logical consequence, logical implication in terms of truth and falsity. And then finally, there's structure. And these question types ask you for the choice which expresses the relationship between the different pieces of information. So what is the nature of a specific statement, the description of argument, the description of reasoning mistakes, etc., etc. Now, these are the 3 major categories dealing with the logical reasoning, or that cover the logical reasoning elements for these questions. So, how do we approach it? Well, you want to be clear on the fundamentals of verbal reasoning, and then you want to learn the specifics for the different questions. So understanding of the arguments is key. So you have to pay attention to the fundamental verbal reasoning relationships, which we had covered in those videos with respect to premise, conclusion, subconclusion, etc. Then you also need to understand the question types and the answer choices. So the question types have common variations, and the answer choices have specific elements which make them correct or incorrect. So basically, you got to understand the fundamentals of reasoning, verbal reasoning in general, and then you want to go in depth into the questions with their different variations and in terms of the answer choices, understanding both the variations, and in terms of answer choices, understanding what makes a choice correct, what makes a choice incorrect. All right, so quick summary. Arguments appear in 2 sections and are thus the most numerous, so you'll be analyzing 25 to 26 short passages per section. You need to be comfortable with verbal reasoning fundamentals. You need to learn the different questions and their variations, along with what makes the right answer right and the wrong answer wrong.